Welcome to the Jaron and LEGRAIR Studio YouTube channel, where we encourage boldness, creativity, and awareness of the voice. If you're new to our channel, welcome. And if you're a subscriber, welcome back. So let's talk about a vocal element that many of us love to hear, and sometimes covet. Riffs and runs. There are some artists like Kiki Wyatt, Jessie J, Tori Kelly, Kim Burrell, Tank, and my personal favorite, Ken Clark Sheard, that can do some awesome things with their voices that we can only dream about doing. In the classical world, this element is usually called a melisma. So many people, like myself, try to execute these riffs and runs, and sometimes we nail it, and sometimes we fall short. And we may fall short for a various number of reasons. Maybe the reason is we didn't hit every note that we needed to hit in the run. Maybe the run was too fast. Maybe the run was too high, too low, or we didn't nail it the way we wanted to. In spite of the reasons why you can't do runs, I want to shed some light on this phenomenon to help us run triers out. Many times we get discouraged as singers when we try to do the runs like our favorite artists and come up short, but it's not because you're a bad singer that you can't do these runs. What most people fail to realize is that the speed of your riffs and runs have a lot to do with your vibrato speed. Now, before I go too far, let me quickly explain what vibrato really is. A more scientific and technical definition of vibrato is a long-term vibration or oscillation superimposed on a sustained frequency. But in layman's terms, it just means a slight uniform variation on a given pitch, which will produce a richer, warmer sound. We'll save the detail about vibrato for a whole nother video that will come later on down the line. But for right now, that's all you need to know. Now, the speed of the variation in pitch, what we call vibrato, it's just dependent on the person's genetic makeup. In the book entitled Your Voice and Inside View, Dr. Scott McCoy even mentions that the vibrato speed could be related to the body's natural tremor. If you notice, these singers who have faster vibrato speeds typically can do faster runs than those with slower vibrato. They usually have slower runs. And this is nothing against them or us, it's just the way we're all made. So now that we got the general gist of vibrato out the way, let's talk about what happens when you do a run. So when you do a run, each time you hit a note in a run, a tiny bit of air escapes from the vocal folds in between each note. So as you're doing a run, it's note air, note air, note air, note air as you're executing the run. And though you may be having trouble trying to execute these runs, there are ways to clean up your runs and make them a little more crisp. One way is to be super intentional about where you start and where you end your runs. And when I say start and end, I mean the note you start on and the note you end on, and everything in between, being super intentional about each note that you want to hit and practice that sequence over and over. Another more invasive, detailed way to practice riffs and runs is to literally break down the run and dissect it note for note. A goal of mine when I was younger was to learn the tenor arias from Handel's Messiah. And so I remember learning Every Valley and Thou Shalt Break Them, and those two songs are full of melismas. With those melismas, I had to dissect each one and go super slow to hit each note correctly. And me and my voice teacher went over those runs over and over and over and over and over. But over time, as I learned each note in the run, as I sped up the notes and kind of put them together in context, by the time I learned the song, I was already ready for each riff and run and each melisma that happened because I dissected it and I knew where each note landed. Now keep in mind not to push too much air when trying to do these runs, because that subglottal air pressure can do more harm than good while doing these runs. So think about how you execute pitch in the first place. Pitch meaning the note that you're gonna sing. So when you do a pitch, say you're saying ah, that is different than ah. Both those notes require a different laryngeal position to execute each note. Now don't beat yourself up if you can't do these riffs and runs like you want to. This embellishment requires practice, and everybody's voices are made differently. So depending on your voice type, your voice girth, your vibrato speed, or any other unmentioned factors, your voice may not sound just like the artist you're trying to sound like. However, I tell all my students that there is art in your mistakes. So though you may not sound like the way you want to sound like or the way you're intending to sound like, what you end up doing may be just as good, and it probably is. And many times out of these mistakes, you learn your own artistry and what you are able to do, what you're not able to do, and you know your lane much more clearly. So while developing your style and doing riffs and runs and everything else, develop your artistry. Develop you, who you are as an artist. And enjoy the process of practicing these riffs and runs. Have fun with it. Don't make it a chore, make it a fun hobby. And don't put all that pressure on yourself to sound like everybody else. You sound like you for a reason. You have your gift for a reason. So enjoy it and embrace it. So if you like this content, give us a thumbs up, click subscribe down below, and click the alert button so you know when I post the next video. All right, I'll talk to you super soon.